Welcome to the Erasmus Foundation podcast. My name is Paul Nugent. Are you looking for answers to life and its meaning? Then this may well be the very podcast you need to listen to. In a series of podcasts, we are going to look at the difficult questions of life and apply spiritual knowledge to find out the answers. Hello. Today we're going to look at the question, why does man make mistakes? And with me to discuss this is Julia, Corinne and Rosina. And we'll start with you, Rosina, if you don't mind. Let me ask you the question, why does man make mistakes?
I think it's quite simply that we make mistakes because we need to learn, and we have to make mistakes in order to learn. We come to this earth in order to grow spiritually, and we've made a choice to come because perhaps there was something that we needed to learn, some experience we needed to have. And in that tapestry, we will have those experiences in our lives, which are going to give us the opportunity to develop ourselves spiritually. So we take a life, and in that life, we will experience certain things, and we will make mistakes. And some of those mistakes will make a big impression on us. It may be that we don't understand exactly what we have learned from mistakes that we've made soon after we've made them. Sometimes it takes time to realize the learning that we have got from those mistakes. I think that perhaps one of the important things about making a mistake is that we reflect on the mistake, we evaluate that mistake, and by doing that, we learn from it, and then we're able to go forward. However, if we don't recognize that we have made a mistake, or we blame other people for the mistake that we've made, then I don't think that it's possible to really learn from that mistake. And at some point, we're going to do exactly the same thing again. And we will probably carry on making the same mistake until perhaps we do learn from it.
Thank you, Rosina. So, Corinne, when we talk about mistakes, it can be something as simple as knocking over a glass in life, which is pretty inconsequential, or something more serious where we make a choice in life that is so life-changing that it takes a while for us to make that decision, and even then we're not sure whether it's the right decision. What do you think about that?
I think that every day we are taking decisions and making choices, and some of these choices are perhaps not so important, I would say. We can make sometimes little mistakes. Perhaps I can be cooking something and I make a mistake, I do not choose the right ingredients, or it will be too salty. Well, this happens in everyday life. Now we have got a tapestry of life, which is structured, and on our tapestry, there are some freedoms of choice. These are some important time in our life. And yes, these are important decisions because they may lead us in one direction or perhaps a very different direction. We are completely alone in front of a freedom of choice, and they are part of our spiritual progression. Now, we can be at such a place, and perhaps we can choose the wrong direction. That could be considered as a mistake. Now, the great mind does not punish, never. And this is going to be, in fact, an experience of life on earth. The experience of having made the mistake, the experience of living all the difficulties that having made the wrong decision is going to put us in such perhaps a bad situation. And it is possible that we will need strength and courage to come back to the right path according to our tapestry. All this is learning, and spirit and the great mind does not judge us. So that is very important, because something that is very much into the earth is the sense of culpability. And this is a negative feeling that is, in a way, not helping us to take all the opportunities of what the mistakes we make can bring us as a benefit to evolve spiritually. So it is important to have acceptance that we made a mistake and take the time to look at it, to try to understand what happened, why, and to look at ourselves in truth, and then accept that things be so, perhaps appreciate what we have hopefully learned out of this situation, and then, being stronger, go on our life positively.
Thank you, Corinne. Now, Julia, we are in a world of blame at the moment where people are pointing their fingers at somebody else when they made a mistake. And it's almost that a faction of our population would then almost try to destroy those people as if they're somehow less than human. I've also been in a situation where people wouldn't make a decision so that they wouldn't be blamed. And this is very negative, very actually destructive in its effect upon the way forward, I think. What do you think about that?
Well, my thought is that people who are like that don't really know themselves very well. because if they had taken some time to look at themselves and try and find out what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, then I think they would be in a better place and a better position to deal with the sort of examples you've given. Because the more we can be truthful with ourselves, surface our spirit more, perhaps through meditation and contemplation, then we can use our spiritual strength and courage to face up to the truth, to maybe accept that you were wrong at a particular time and made a mistake, and certainly look at yourself in the first instance when something happens, and also perhaps have the strength to communicate with others about something that has happened. So I feel that it's very much about how much self-knowledge and how much strength you have found within yourself. And of course, we find a lot of this through experience in our life. So I feel that the older we get, hopefully we found a little bit more understanding of ourselves, a little bit more strength, and we are in a better place so that we're not blaming others. We can be honest with ourselves and with others, put it behind us and move forward in a very positive way. So I think it's quite simple in how we should handle things. But I think because the spirit is not always to the fore within people and in the world at the moment, I think this is why you often see the blame game. People feel insecure. And so I feel that it is the spirit that is needed. It is our minds that are needed to be used to solve these problems and these mistakes as they occur.
Thank you, Julia. Rosina, sometimes in life, things impact upon you so heavily that you seem to go into a deep depression and you reach rock bottom. And as the saying goes, the only way is up. So what would you like to say about that?
Well, this is something that I can very much relate to, Paul, because I've been there myself. And I really felt at the time that my life had got to a point where I had reached rock bottom and that I had nothing more to lose. And I have to say that for many people, they might think and view that as being a very negative situation to be in. Thankfully, I didn't. I actually viewed it as a positive because it meant that I could go out and do things and explore things, and I had nothing to lose. But I think crucially important was the fact that I also took the time to think perhaps why I had got into that situation in the first place. Think about ways that I could get myself out of that situation and really reflect on myself and my life in a way that perhaps I hadn't done up to that point. And I think by looking at yourself in truth when you're in a situation like that is an incredibly important and positive thing to do, because it can then enable you to go forward in your life and discover all the wonders that there is out there to discover. And more importantly, I think that it enables you to grow spiritually and increase your understanding of yourself or for yourself and for others. However, I have to say that this idea that when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way, and that is up, isn't necessarily true. Because I think that if you're at rock bottom and you continue to blame people, look outside yourself for answers rather than looking to yourself for answers, then you are likely to stay rock bottom. And it would be very difficult for you to make the progress which you could make by looking at yourself and looking towards yourself to find answers.
Thank you, Rosina. Now, Corinne, in our life, it's about actions and consequences. We make an action and then we've got to take the consequences for that action. So in life, it is about making choices, and if we make a mistake, then often life becomes harder, doesn't it? Not easier.
Well, yes, Paul, certainly. Now, it is part of life to go through some difficulties. So it is also part of life that we will make some mistakes. Some of the mistakes are, in a way, they are already on our tapestries, which shows a tapestry, and for the reasons of our spiritual evolution, the tests, the difficulties are predestined. So some of the mistakes we make in life, or we are going to make in life, they are there on our tapestry. And in a way, may I say, those who are predestined, we cannot avoid them. They are part of this life experience. And I agree with you, Paul. Some of these mistakes can make our life a little bit more difficult for some time, a little bit painful, perhaps. And all this is part of the growing process, really. Now, perhaps some of the mistakes that are not predestined on our tapestry, perhaps men and women could avoid some of those mistakes, and in a way, perhaps, could make their life perhaps a little easier, if only they would take the time to think before doing the action. As you say, action and then an effect. So perhaps taking the time quietly to think of, well, if I do this, what is going to be the effect? One can perhaps think about this a bit deeply, using the mind, not the earth brain. And this is another thing. First, taking the time, and perhaps second, to use the mind more than mankind perhaps does at the present time. Because the brain has become very strong and overshadows the mind of human beings at the end of this fifth civilization. the mind has been more important in the past, and using the mind can help the person to make perhaps a wiser decision.
Thank you, Corinne. So using the mind, Julia, there's the key. What would you like to say about that?
Well, yes, absolutely. I agree. And I think the key is the truth. And I think if you can face up to mistakes you have made and you can be truthful with yourself, then I think you unclutter yourself. You don't keep things inside yourself that really would be quite uncomfortable if you didn't acknowledge them and think about them and in a way get rid of them. They have been an experience. You can acknowledge to yourself that you've made a mistake. You can have the positive thought that you've learnt from it and you will try not to make the mistake again. And in that way, you're releasing yourself, you are unburdening yourself. And I think then you can move forward in a more positive mindset and free to go forward and think more clearly, because I think also you would feel that you would have a little bit of self-respect as well, because you have been honest with yourself. We're all human, we all make mistakes. And I think also if you can be honest with yourself and acknowledge mistakes, then likewise you would be more generous in how you see other people when they make mistakes. So I feel it is very much starting with yourself, going about things in the right way, with truth, with some spiritual strength, using your mind, as has been said, and then things will be much more fruitful for you going forward in your life.
Thank you very much, Julia. Greetings, Bedina.
Greetings.
Would you like to say a few words?
I would like to say how well all three of you have spoken this evening on this subject, and there is not really much I could add, but I would wish to make one little point, that in spirits, at times it is necessary for us to evaluate, to do a self-inspection, and to look back at some of our lives, because we have an open memory in spirit. We have the ability to view anything that is of our past. And the particular points in our life which stand out and have more meaning than anything else are the events whereby we might be in error or make a mistake. And of course, because within that is the knowledge we have gained. And it is, of course, the knowledge that we refer to and wish to remind ourselves how we gained this. And of course, in time, with all these experiences, with the gathering of knowledge, we gain wisdom.
The Erasmus Foundation is a spiritual teaching and healing foundation based in Laxfield, Suffolk, in the United Kingdom. We have a webpage, www.erasmus-foundation.org. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, or indeed have further questions for us, then please contact me on paul@ erasmus-foundation.org, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. Thank you very much for listening.